People think getting pre-approved is the stressful part about buying a house. But honestly, sometimes the most stressful part happens after you think that you're almost done. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kay, giving you the real keys to home ownership so that your first buy is the right one. Today, I'm going to react to a couple of clips that show exactly why buyers get overwhelmed as they're nearing the finish line, because a lot of people think once the offer is accepted, the stress should be over. Let's get into it.
Is buying a house even worth it? I am set to close on my first home tomorrow. Me and my husband, our first home that we've ever purchased. We have worked so hard for years to get to this point, and it has been a stressful one the entire time. Because as you know, purchasing a house today is insane. Prices, interest rates, competition, it is all just a lot. But we made it through. We fell in love with our house. We got our offer accepted. Everything has been pretty smooth sailing since we've been under contract. Until this week. My lender has been in my about certain things. We were approved and cleared to close, which means we're good to go. We should be good to go. We should show up at the closing table, sign all the documents, and the house is ours. But every day since we've been cleared to close on Monday for our close on Friday, we've had to provide more proof of this, more proof of that, which is fine. We have all the documentation. All of our income is legal. So here, sure, you need more information. Here you go. You think they would have asked us for that, I don't know, any time before a couple days before closing. Then I get a phone call this morning with some news that made me almost say, this. I don't want it anymore. I had a full-on mental breakdown. I'm literally losing hair with the amount of stress that I am under from this process. Full-on mental breakdown to my husband this morning because of something that we were told this morning, 24 hours before we closed. That nearly was a deal breaker for us. And we're still very unsure walking into it now, knowing this information, how we want to proceed. Because this is something that could have absolutely been avoided had someone talked with me about it beforehand, and also something that could have been avoided because I asked and addressed this exact situation when I first reached out to our lender, when I was interviewing lenders. I brought this up, I asked questions and was told it's fine. This is fine. So I'm going into it thinking everything is fine, to be told today, this morning, 24 hours before I go to sign my life away, basically, that this thing's gonna happen. Not gonna go into detail here because the whole thing is just not relevant to the world. This is a very specific situation for us, based on our lifestyle and the way that I make money. I'm a freelancer. All these things could have been talked about beforehand, weeks ago, months ago. I've been in contact with my lender since February. I put in an offer on a house in April, beginning of April. I close tomorrow, which is May 10th. We had this entire time to figure this out, work this through, get this all really for sure tied up in a pretty bow and good to go. So all this to say, is all of this stress, the hair loss, the stress, the crying, the meltdowns that I've been through, especially this past week, is it all worth owning my own home? At this point, I don't know. So I'm gonna stitch this video back in 1 year from now and let myself and you know if all this was worth it. We shall see. We shall see.
Now, this right here is where a lot of buyers mentally crash. Because once you hear that you're cleared to close, most buyers think, again, that the hard part is over. So then when more documents get requested after that, as a buyer, it can feel like they've changed the rules on you. And if you've already dealt with the prices and the changing interest rates and the inspections and all of the paperwork and the timelines, by this point, you're already emotionally drained and exhausted by the process. I really think that this catches a lot of buyers off guard because they assume that all the stress ends once the loan has been approved. But oftentimes, the final stretch is really where emotions peak because at this point in time, you have a lot more to lose. What a lot of buyers don't realize and aren't privy to is that lenders are still verifying this file and ensuring that it still qualifies all the way up until you get to the closing table. That can mean updated bank statements and pay stubs, proof of income, verification of employments, letters of explanation, employment checks, things like that. And a lot of buyers take it personally when extra things are requested because they automatically think, well, something must be wrong. But 8 times out of 10, it's not that anything even went wrong. It's just your file reached a new stage and now we have to get updated documentation. For example, say you submitted pay stubs a month ago. Well, now they may need updated ones because a month, 30 days has passed. Maybe your bank statement changed. Maybe your income needs more clarification. All of those things are normal, especially when income is more complex with like self-employed, 1099, contract workers, or as she said, she's a freelance worker. Files like that usually need more eyes on them because they require a stronger documentation trail. That can mean they need 1099s, at least 2 years of tax returns, profit and loss statements, bank statements, and other things that can prove that your income is stable and that your business is real and ongoing. Because y'all, the lender is lending you all of these thousands of dollars. They need to verify that 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to still be making the same amount of income that they've qualified you all on, because they want that money and y'all got to pay it back. But I'm not going to lie, I understand it from you all standpoint, because if you have somebody constantly asking you for something, it very well can be annoying. You may be like, I already sent you that. Why are y'all asking me all these questions the week I'm about to close? So if this were my client, I'd tell them this does not automatically mean that your deal is falling apart. Sometimes they just need one more piece, one more final documentation, one more of something to finalize your file. And if your income is not the standard W-2 paycheck, then I would expect to be providing way more documentation several times throughout the process. That's just an expectation that you should have. So now we've got emotional stress before closing. But this next clip shows how even on closing day, the stress can still keep going. Let's check it out.
It is literally my closing day, and I just found out it's happening maybe like 30 minutes ago, and I close at 2. We do the final walkthrough at 12:45. It's now about 11 o'clock, and I'm currently on the way to the bank to handle the whole wiring situation. Y'all, what I mean, I can breathe a little bit, just a little bit, only because I spoke to the attorney who was doing the closing whatever, and she was like, we still didn't get the closing documents from your lender. And I'm like, oh, what? And I'm like, okay, so should I still go through with the wire? She's like, yes, because you know that takes a while, and if push come to shove, we'll refund you or we'll hold it if the closing don't happen today. So baby, is it happening today or not? Lender, Navy Federal, baby, you are cutting it real close, my dear. Real close. Super close. I can't even enjoy the day like I want to because I'm stressed, because I'm like, is this even happening? So yes, it is my closing day, and I'm just slightly now getting a clear to close, and it's a partial clear to close because we still waiting on the closing documents, but they decided on a number so I could work on that part, and it's just all over the place. Honestly, do not recommend. I don't recommend this. I don't know. I'll be happy when I'm in the house, but right now I'm stressed.
This is another reality that nobody talks about. People imagine closing day as, you know, I'm gonna get my keys, we all smiles and taking pictures and photos and full of excitement. But sometimes closing day feels like waiting and refreshing your phone and wondering and waiting for somebody to tell you what's happening. When reality doesn't meet that expectation of all smiles and giggles and things like that on closing day, buyers often assume that something must be wrong. When in reality, behind the scenes, closing day just can get very messy. There are a lot of moving parts in a home buying process, period. But just to focus on closing day, you have your lender documents, which have to be drafted and written properly before you can sign. You have the title company and attorney's office, which have to print said documents so that you can sign them. You have to deal with wire timing, which means that if you decided to wire the remainder of your closing costs to the title company, you have to ensure that it made it to the title company to fund. And the title company also has to verify that they received the lender wire as well to be able to fund or get funding approval on that file. Because without funding approval, you don't get your keys. If one piece is late, or one document is signed wrong, or one wire doesn't make it to the right place, everything else is delayed. I currently work in closing and funding when it comes to mortgage loans and mortgage processing. I've seen it firsthand. I've worked files where everything looks calm and collected on the outside, but behind the scenes, you've got 5 people trying to solve one problem 3 hours before the buyer is supposed to get to the title company to sign their closing documents so they can get the keys to their house. and the title company has no closing documents to be signed because that one thing that the lender and processor and whoever is trying to fix hasn't been resolved yet. So from the buyer side, I know it can look messy and it can be frustrating because you don't know what's going on. But behind the scenes, there are a lot of people trying to get you to the finish line. Honestly, this is why I tell my buyers, don't plan some big emotional celebration for noon that day. You need to wait until you get those keys in your hand. Buyers think that the title company or the lender is being raggedy or unorganized. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that can happen, for sure. But a lot of times, it's just multiple people trying to package everything correctly so that you can close and fund on that home and get your keys safely and legally. Until the lender gives funding approval and everything is complete, all the documents have been signed, so on and so forth, you are still in that home buying process. That's why I say, and will continue to always say, don't spend any money mentally, don't mentally move in, and don't assume that it's actually done until you've gotten those keys. What I usually tell my client is take the day off, stay flexible, keep your phone near you, and whatever your agent or lender call or text or email you for that day, get it to them quickly. Because your urgency often affects how quickly everything else moves on the back end. Also, too, I wanted to say this because the young lady mentioned it in the video. It is okay for you to wire money to the title company before the closing docs that you have to sign get there. That's all depending on your situation. Everything that I say is usually situational. But wiring funds from one place to another can take a long time. And without those funds, the deal can't fund and you can't get your keys. So it's usually good practice to go ahead and get that process started. And then, as she said, the title company told her if it doesn't close, they'll wire the money back or they'll hold it for the day that they do close. But if you're ever unsure, ask those questions and make sure you confirm those instructions carefully. So after watching both of these clips, here's the truth. The most stressful part about buying a home is not house hunting, it's not submitting an offer, it's not getting approved. It's often the final stretch. It's when you're emotionally invested, tired, money has already been spent, timelines matter, and every single email and text and phone call feels very serious. If you're someone that gets anxious with uncertainty, this stage can feel very long for you. That's why I'd rather prepare buyers for this up front than let them get blindsided by it once they're already in their home buying process. And that doesn't mean that the process is broken every time. It just, again, boils down to buyers needing more preparation for what closing week and closing day is actually going to look like. If you know up front that docs may still be requested, income still has to be reviewed, and closing day can still move around, when those things happen, it doesn't completely feel like everything is out of control. Your goal should not be to avoid every stressful moment. Your goal should be to work with professionals that are going to walk you through each step in the process. Because buying a house always has moving parts and always will. What matters is who is helping you move through them. If you're trying to figure out what your path to buying a home looks like and want just a little bit more clarity before you move forward, I do offer one-on-one consultations where we can discuss your specific situations, your goals, and what you should expect as you embark on your home buying process. The link for that is in the description below. And if you want extra help getting prepared, I also have a free giveaway in the description as well. It was designed to help you feel more organized, more confident, and a lot less overwhelmed before you start. If you're still learning, that's quite all right. Be sure to watch these next 2 videos so that you can get more education in the home buying process. Because the more you understand now, the smoother your process is going to be. Remember, when you know better, you definitely buy smarter. Until next time, see you in the next one.